Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin. Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin.
I can only count to four. I can only count to four. I can only count to four. I can only count to
Yeah, I'm just gonna hit record now.
Awesome. Let's go.
Welcome to the show, Casey. Do you go by Casey or did I just dox you?
No. I go by Casey. I'm pretty blasé about people knowing who I am. I guess if I have a handle, it's Rodamore or Rod Armor, which is my last name because it's pretty unique. So I just go by that.
Boss, I love it. So today we have on the show Super Testnet. He's gonna help us with all the math stuff.
What's up, Super?
I find it easiest to call you the ordinals guy because you told me I could.
Yeah, ordinals guy is also totally fine. I love it. When I heard that while I was listening to the podcast, I don't know how I found it. Like somebody linked me to it or something, and then Super was calling me ordinals guy, and like I was just made me so happy.
Yeah, well, you told me it was okay, so I have the approval of the ordinals guy. Use that name.
Yeah.
So tell us
the ordinals guy. That's an upgrade.
So tell us, like, what are ordinals? Because it sounds really boring, Casey. But I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not. But like, what are they, and why are they important?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, okay. So important. I don't know about that. But like, really, the whole thing is like kind of like a fun art project, and like we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, so ordinals are serial numbers for Satoshis. They start at 0 with the first sat of the Genesis block and go up to approximately 2.1 quadrillion, because that's how many sats there ever will be. 21 million Bitcoin times 100 million sats per Bitcoin gives you 2.1 quadrillion. So yeah, and there's like a very simple algorithm for how they're mined and then how they're transferred.
So you put serial numbers, or not, maybe not you, I don't know who did, but there's serial numbers attached to Satoshis. Is that? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it's really simple. So they're just assigned in the order in which they are mined. So you think of the Genesis block. The Genesis block was the first Bitcoin to come into existence. And so that has 5 billion sats in it, because that's 50 Bitcoin times 100 million. And so those sats get ordinal numbers. Each sat gets a little number, and each number is 0 through 5 billion minus 1, like 4,999,999,999,999 are created in the Genesis.
9999999.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Now why? I guess why?
Yeah. So look,
Wait, no, I have another question.
Okay, wait. Super has a question. There you go.
You said they're assigned. Who assigns them?
What do you mean who assigns them? Like, I made up the scheme, kind of. I was actually, people discovered it before me, but I'm an independent discoverer of the scheme. So it's just it's a convention. It's a proposed convention / collective hallucination. So nobody really assigns.
So whoever uses it assigns it. That's how I would say
uses it. Whoever uses the ordinals like convention.
Yeah. Like if you have a wallet that recognizes ordinal software, your wallet is assigning numbers to these things.
That's right. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. I guess so. There is no why then. It was already done. You said that you independently discovered it. What do you mean by that? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So I came. So I guess I'll sort of start at the beginning and you sort of ask like why I did it, because then it'll make a lot more sense. So
okay.
I've done a lot of generative digital art in the past. I sort of I wouldn't call it a career, but I had like a hobby that took up a lot of time making live audio reactive visuals for electronic music, like in like clubs and like performances and stuff like that. So I never did it professionally or made money. I did some shows, but I didn't make any money at it. And so when NFTs came along, especially generative art NFTs, I started to get like serious FOMO as a Bitcoiner. I was like, I would like to be able to issue NFTs. And actually with like my art, because people seem to be like really appreciating the kind of art that I make as NFTs. And I looked into, doing it on Ethereum, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just like do some Ethereum NFTs or something. And Ethereum is just like so bad for so many reasons. Like, and like, I'm not really a Bitcoin maximalist. Like I really consider like the merits of other projects. I didn't just dismiss Ethereum out of hand, but it's like the security model is terrible. The scaling is terrible. The tools are terrible. Everything is super complicated. It doesn't have basic things like native multi-sig on Bitcoin, or like, it's just so bad. And then the centralization, I think is I think proof of stake, the transition is kind of going to be a disaster for Ethereum for a bunch of reasons. So it's like, all right, like I can't do it on Ethereum. How can I do it on Bitcoin? And Bitcoin doesn't really have any like non-shitcoiny ways to issue like an asset or an NFT on Bitcoin. I think the closest two things that you get are Liquid, which is Blockstream's sidechain, and Counterparty. Unfortunately, Counterparty is like, it has its own token that you need for certain things on Counterparty. And that's kind of like, kind of unacceptable to me for like a lot of reasons. So I was like, okay, like how do I do NFTs on Bitcoin in like a real Bitcoin native way? So then I started thinking about a whole bunch of different versions of this scheme that eventually became ordinals. And as I simplified it and improved it and like removed things from it, eventually it came down to a very, very simple form where you just assign these serial numbers to Satoshis in the order in which they're mined. And there's a very simple transfer algorithm that figures out how they move from UTXO to UTXO as transactions get processed. And and the purpose is or the original purpose was so that I would have some sort of stable identifier that I could attach an NFT to. I could say like, okay, ordinal number, 2,999,000, I'm assigning this NFT to it, like with a digital signature that I make. And then anybody who owns that ordinal owns that NFT, so that I could make some cool generative art NFTs and do it on like a not shitty chain.
That's kind of smart. I mean, that's pretty genius, right? Or no, or you said somebody else had came up with it, but that seems that seems like legit though, right?
Well, so it was a case of independent discovery. So after I finished it and kind of it came in its final form, I hadn't been thinking about it as serial numbers. I'd actually been thinking about it as like the first version, it was called Atoms, which is crazy because actually in the pre-release Bitcoin Core source code, Satoshi had this feature called Atoms. Whenever you mined a block, you would like get an atom, but it was totally unfinished. It was totally like, and it was removed, I think before the original release or counted out or whatever. And then it became ordinals. And then I was like, oh, these are like serial numbers for Satoshi. So like when I had simplified it down to this serial number scheme. And so I finally typed in like Satoshi serial number in Google. And the first thing that came up was a Bitcoin Talk forum post from 2012, where Johnson Lau, who had later gone on to work on a bunch of different things, including, I think, the SegWit spec, he had proposed the identical scheme, like exactly the same. Yeah. It only differed in terms of the notation that he used. he used a notation which was like block number dot and then Satoshi offset in the block. And then I was using this like raw notation where it was just like the raw number of the Satoshi in the supply. So just like one big number. But aside from that, the schemes were like identical. And I think it's because like if you really try to grind away everything that's unnecessary and like simplify it, it's kind of like very natural, given the way that Bitcoin works. It's almost like, I mean, this is not true, but I like to think of it that like Satoshi kind of created ordinals accidentally when he created Bitcoin. And then other people have sort of like noticed that you can do it over time. So it's kind of like just like finding something that's already there.
It's interesting. We were talking about it last night here at Pleb Lab, and we had some Bitcoiners over, and I was telling them that we were going to talk today, and we got into this conversation about and I think he had just asked it earlier, but like if we create these, let's say hypothetically, like you take like the Genesis block, right, or whoever has that particular ordinal set, I guess is the word for it. Could you theoretically like attach like, let's just call it a JPEG to that set from like a database? But could that stop other people from, I guess anybody could attach any kind of JPEG to it, right? Or would it only, like, how would that work, I guess?
Yeah, so that's actually something that's kind of still in flux. I originally was like, okay, I'm doing this for the NFTs, but I realized that like people really liked the idea of collectible ordinals. I came up with this kind of ridiculous like rarity system, which like we can get into later for ordinals. But yeah, so the way that it would work is like, let's say I'm some artist and I have a well-known public key. Like people know my public key. I like publish it widely. Maybe let's say my Bitcoin address, some Bitcoin address that I use as an identity. So if I want to issue a JPEG, I just get a JPEG and then I hash it. And then I make a message that contains the ordinal number that I want to assign it to and the hash of the JPEG. And I sign that with the private key that corresponds to my well-known public key. And then I like put it out there. Like that doesn't need to go on chain. That can just go everywhere. So yeah, that's right. Like anybody can assign something to any ordinal, but presumably people would only like pay attention to or track the ones that were valuable or interesting. Like it's not like they have to recognize or keep track of any of the assignments that they don't care about. So
hypothetically, I could have my public key and then make Thriller art or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And then attach.
I mean, there's something there. Like, I mean, like with the Michael Jackson Thriller video, like that kind of like horror Bitcoin kind of vibe.
Yeah. So I could attach that, I guess, whatever, when I send those Satoshis over to like, let's say you also get that JPEG that I've created, and then it has value, right? And then you could transfer those Satoshis to somebody else, and then they would have that JPEG. Or
well,
how does
roughly you're right. The only thing that is different is that like it isn't the act of sending the Satoshis that gives the person the JPEG. The message that contains the JPEG and that contains the signature is like public. Like let's say like you just download it on BitTorrent, or you go to like ordinals.com/like art or whatever. Like anybody can see it. The act of transferring the Satoshis just transfers the sort of ownership of it.
Yeah. It's hard to wrap my I think there's something there. Like, I think you're right. I think it's going to require somebody to come in and like do a little massaging and like really explain it out a little bit more simply for people to fully grasp. But there's something there. It's interesting.
One of the reasons that it's super rough is that like we sort of started doing the NFT stuff, the JPEG assignment stuff. And we actually did some. We did some like on Signet, like just to test it and like make sure the software worked. But we have kind of like I haven't been working on that side of it as much. And so like I'm not 100% sure how it can work. Like I know there's a bunch of different ways to make it work. Like is it a signature? Like who needs to sign it? Like is it is it on chain? Is it off chain? Like all that stuff. So it's very much not fleshed out. Basically right now, the major things that I'm working on is one is like an ordinals block explorer. So you can click, like just on like blocks and transactions and then outputs and then ordinals and then see like properties of the different ordinals. Which I actually just finished. Like I just finished like a version of it, which is suitable for demoing maybe like 10 minutes before we got online. I was like scrambling. So if you want a demo, we could always do that.
Yeah. So Super, weren't people trying to get you to make NFTs like last year or something?
When I first started at Pleb Lab, one of the projects that I had worked on was something called SIG chains, which allowed you to do stable coins and NFTs in a manner similar to Counterparty. And there was a guy who offered to pay me some money to make a clone of OpenSea that used this protocol I came up with. But I turned him down because NFTs are dumb.
NFTs are dumb. That's a totally fair criticism.
So he like went to dinner with them and like they like, where did they take you? Like somewhere nice, right?
Somebody wined and dined.
Yeah, they like wined and dined.
It was like Happy Chicks or something.
Oh, it was Happy Chicks? Oh, maybe not. But
in fact, they didn't even. They turned when it was time to do that. They were like they canceled. So,
but yeah, so there's definitely people out there that want this ability to do this. Like, there's a lot of artsy people out there that want to attach their Satoshis to JPEGs, and that sounds like a way. Maybe, I don't know. How far have you gone? I mean, how far have you gone along with it? Like how far? Because didn't you do a demo? I was watching the demo at Bitcoin Plus Plus, and you were giving out like 10,000. Was it like 10,000 Satoshis like per wallet?
Yeah, 10,000 Sats on these like paper wallets.
So tell everybody about that. Like,
oh yeah, so I mean, at BTC Plus Plus, which is an educational conference organized by Base 58, which is Nifty Nay's outfit. I gave a presentation on ordinals, and I thought it would be fun if people like minted their own ordinal NFTs. So I made paper wallets. Each one had 10,000 sats, and it had the public key on the front and the private key on the back. And it also had the ordinal ranges. It had like lists of the ordinal numbers that the sats were. So like each one was 10,000. So they had ranges totaling 10,000 ordinals, like start and end ranges. And then at the end of my like talk, I explained how ordinals worked. And then we used my super ghetto software to like issue ordinal NFTs and assign them. Each person created an NFT and assigned it to one of the ordinals in their paper wallet. So hypothetically, you could trade the NFT by giving somebody the paper wallet. I mean, as long as the previous person didn't write down the pub key.
How did people take to it?
People liked it. I mean, like people liked it a lot. Yeah. I didn't get any like negative comments. Like it's weird. I think on Twitter, if somebody doesn't like something you're doing, like they're super mean about it. But in real life,
no one really cares.
Yeah. And people who are not interested just ignore you, and you just get the people who are into it, you know?
Plus you gave him 10,000 sats too. So
that's right. Yeah. And then also afterwards, like, you know, this is like how me and Super met. I was like standing outside in the lobby with these paper wallets, and I was like giving them out, and I gave one to Super, and like, I don't know if I explained what they were. And he's like, "Can I just take the stats?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go for it." Like, so I had actually, Super was really kind on your podcast to me. So like,
yeah, he said you're like his favorite guy that he met.
That was heartwarming.
I was like, what? Really? Like he met also, like Adam Back. He met like all these other guys, Brian Bishop, like Ken Trout. And he was like, said, nope, the Ordinals guy was my favorite person.
Yeah. No, he didn't say I was his favorite person. He said I was his favorite person that he wasn't expecting to meet. So maybe Adam Back was like better, but he was expecting to meet Adam Back. So, you know, Adam Back didn't get the mention.
You were my unexpected surprise. Ordinals guy.
Exactly. Like the toy in the bottom of a box of Cracker Jacks.
I really liked the amount of effort I had to go through in order to redeem those Taproot sets, because there's not very many wallets that support Taproot yet, and certainly not also supporting like manual importing of a private key. So I had to figure all that out, and that was fun. You helped a lot.
And I mean, the other problem was that the back of the paper wallet, like the way that I had encoded the private key was very much non-standard. The standard way to encode a private key is it's something called the WIF, which stands for Wallet Import Format. I think I had done something really weird, like just encoding it as the raw hex or as the raw, or like using Bec32 or something.
Yeah, you did Bec32.
Yeah, so there was actually like a bunch of totally unnecessary steps that Super had to jump through to like extract the sats into Bitcoin Core. But the cool thing is like we were like trying to figure it out, and I was like, I don't know, man, like this is hard. And then I like look over, and Andy Chow is standing there, and Andy Chow has done like all the work on descriptor wallets and like all this like wallet work. And so we're literally able to just walk over and be like, hey, Andy Chow, like #1 expert in the world on the thing that we're having trouble with. Like, please explain how we can get these like $2 of sats out of a paper wallet.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was probably my favorite part of the conference.
Yeah, that was super fun.
That's so cool. You're like,
what did you?
Because you'd normally, like you said, you normally be like, oh man, we're gonna have to, figure this out, or like maybe reach out to him some other way. And you're like, no, he's right there.
Yeah, exactly. And literally, like, he's literally the person who I think knows the most specifically about this. Like, he's done like all the stuff with descriptors. Do you know what wallet descriptors are?
Very little, but can you explain it?
They're sort of, yeah. So like each wallet, like a Bitcoin wallet, usually you don't just have one private key because we don't want to reuse addresses for privacy reasons. It generates a sequence of private keys. And so there are a bunch of different ways that you might want to. Oh yeah, but then let me say, but an HD wallet, like a hierarchical descriptor or like a hierarchical deterministic wallet. Yeah. Like you only have one master seed that you have to back up from which all of these private keys are derived for convenience, right? Otherwise, each time your wallet generated a new private key, you'd have to back up that private key. But if they're all derived from your master seed, you don't have to do periodic backups. And in fact, Bitcoin Core used to work this way. I don't know if it still does sometimes, where it would like generate like 1,000 private keys in one go. And then you'd have to like keep backing up your wallet. Otherwise, your old backup wouldn't recover your new coins because you didn't have the private keys. So anyways, wallets all use some sort of derivation scheme to go from a root secret to all of your private keys that then are all of your different addresses. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that you might like to do that derivation. Like, are you going to do any kind of multi-sig? Are you going to use Taproot? Are you going to use SegWit? Are you going to use native SegWit? All sorts of different derivation schemes. And so a descriptor or a wallet descriptor is a sort of text string that exactly describes how the wallet should derive its keys from this one sort of secret. So for example, it'll say like, here's the root secret, and I want you to use this like HD wallet derivation path. And then I want you to generate native Taproot addresses, right? So that it's a way of sort of like, it's a way that backs up your wallet, and it doesn't just back up the secret, it also backs up the path, describes the path from the secret to all of the addresses that your wallet generates. And so that is something big thing that Andy Chow has worked on.
Wow. Yeah, the only thing I know about them is that I had to take after I decoded my private key, I had to put it into a descriptor, which is like this weird string that has parentheses and stuff in it. And then that was what I had to import into Bitcoin Core. And then I had to sync. Yeah. I had to synchronize the blockchain so that I could find my money. So,
Yep. Super. One thing that I was really impressed by at the conference is that we were like sitting in front of your laptop or something, and you needed to write something down, and you just opened up a web page and then changed one of the elements on the web page to like content editable equals true, and then just started using the web page to like jot down notes. You were like, oh, it'd be inefficient to open a text editor. Let me just repurpose this web page so that I can take some notes. It was legit amazing.
Yeah. I mean, who wants 5 different programs when a browser can do everything?
Yeah,
So,
and also like we got to save the environment, right? New windows, right? I'm sure every time you open a window, like somebody
yeah.
clubs like a baby seal to death, right? So you got to reuse all your windows. You don't want to be closing
You
and
got separate
opening
processes for every program. I mean, you're spinning up threads. I'm all about conserving energy. I'm just gonna
Absolutely,
open up a new tab, load up Google, and make it editable.
That's so
Yeah,
hilarious.
exactly. Yeah.
Gosh. So I guess the biggest question is behind the scenes, Casey, like what do you work on? Like I know there's the ordinal stuff, but like what else? I saw that you had this like really cool website. It was called Degenerative Art.
Oh yeah,
dude, it's or Degenerate Art. Yeah, dude, the website's so cool. We were in here a while ago and we were trying to do some stuff, and then like we hit shift and enter, and then it just like did some crazy things. But
yep.
well, what is that? What is Degenerate.computer? What is this website? It looks interesting.
Yeah, are you on it right now?
Yeah.
Try going to the drop down in the upper right hand corner and
You should share your screen.
and selecting like kaleidoscope,
Yeah, that's the one I'm on right now.
and then hit run.
Okay, let me hit run. Let's see. I hit run here. Let me hit enter and then run.
He already hit run, and so nothing's happening. Like he sees a kaleidoscope.
I see a kaleidoscope though. No, there are some other things that I did too.
In the lower right hand corner, is there like a toggle box? I think it says rotate.
Yeah. Let me go back to kaleidoscope and then hit shift enter. Yep, run and then hit rotate. Oh, that's cool. Wow.
So it's a generative art engine that is currently scriptable in JavaScript and that runs in the browser. And this is sort of derived. This is like sort of the latest version of the generative visuals engines that I've been working on. So the principle that it operates on is actually pretty simple. It is based on a sequence of image filters, and so what the JavaScript is doing is it's configuring a sequence of image filters and then running them. And then the output of each image filter is used as the input to the next filter. And that's how you get, it's like very complicated fractal-like images. As the filters sort of layer on top of each other, you get this like explosion of visual complexity.
That's really cool.
It's kind of, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of in a half-finished state right now. It's going to start getting really cool when I make it audio reactive. Whoa. And we have some basics. What's up?
I said, whoa, that'd be epic.
Yeah. It, like my last visuals engine, it also had like audio reactive, obviously audio reactive visuals, and it looked really good. But it's all sort of related. Like I was like, I want to sell some JPEGs. I guess I got to write a program that makes some cool JPEGs. And then I was like, well, I don't want to do it on Ethereum. So I guess I got to like come up with a way to do JPEGs on Bitcoin. And then I was like, well, ordinals are actually pretty cool in their own right. Like, so it's all sort of related.
Yeah. Fun fact. We're going to do a fun fact today. Fun fact. Did you know we use ordinal numbers in our day-to-day lives, Super? Did you know that? We use them in competitions. The top 3 positions are first, second, third. We use them in an elevator. We press a button. We go to the 6th floor. We also use ordinal numbers to give instructions. First step, second step, and so on. That's your fun fact of the day. Yeah.
That was a set of boring facts.
Bro, come on, Super.
Come on, Super. Dude, ordinals are cool.
I prefer cardinals. I'm sorry. My favorite types of numbers are...
So like an ordinal number is like when you use a number to refer to the position of something in something else. Like if it's the first car, you can say, oh, there's one car and that's a cardinal number. And then the first car, then it's using it as an ordinal number. And the Satoshi serial number scheme is called ordinals because each sat is numbered by its position in the supply, like the 0th sat, cool. The 10 millionth sat.
That's so cool.
And then the other reason they're called ordinals is because the word ordinal isn't used anywhere else in Bitcoin protocols. So it's like unambiguous. Like if you refer to Bitcoin, like nobody's going to get confused. If you refer to ordinals, nobody's going to get confused by something else in the Bitcoin protocol. Yeah. And then like, so I call like ordinal sats, or like sats that have ordinal numbers that you care about. And then cardinal sats are sats that you just care about the amount, right? You have like a billion sats, right? All you care about is that it's a billion sats. So this is sort of like cardinal sats.
Yeah. I guess. So when you got to the art thing, like, because I know we're talking about ordinals right now, but like, how did you start doing the art thing? Were you already doing art before you started developing and doing all this kind of stuff?
Well, so like, yeah, I started doing art a long time ago. I think it was like 2010 or 2011. And I was working at Google. And I was just sort of like a corporate, like my first job at Google was like really stressful. I was a site reliability engineer, which is like a glorified sysadmin, but it's like Google broke and you have to fix it. And we're losing like $1 million a second in ad revenue. Like, hope you fix it quick. So that was like kind of stressful. And then I changed jobs to working on Google Maps. And that was like totally different. All I did was like write JavaScript, for like Street View, basically. If you go to Street View and you like hover the cursor around, there's this little arrow that appears on the ground that shows you where you'll go if you click. I think I made that. I'm pretty sure I made that.
Wait, let me ask you a quick Google Maps question. Is it true that certain spots of the world are like blocked off, like because like you can't like show it or whatever because of like certain things?
I mean, I'm sure that's true. I was like, at like a giant company, you have no idea what's going on. Really? So like, I mean, like I was sort of on this like front end JavaScript team. So I'm sure that's true, but I have no idea like what the details are.
I've got another question that's related to that shadow thing. So, sometimes when I'm working in there's a window nearby, I'll notice that like it gets darker for a little bit and then it gets lighter again. Like the sun got dimmed. Is that because someone on Google Maps moved their cursor over me and then I got a shadow?
That's right. No, specifically what's happening is, you know how you like pick up the Google Maps guy to drop him? That means that somebody was like hovering that over your location. If you would look outside
and the little guy was kicking his
feet, you'd actually see the huge orange Google Maps guy like being dragged around by a little hand.
So you're responsible for the thing that grabs, the grappler?
No. If you go into Street View and you're like in the 3D like view of the street and you're like moving your mouse around, there is a little like circle that will appear on the ground.
Oh, that's you?
And yeah, I believe that I came up with it or I implemented it.
That's a good idea.
I either came up with it or a designer came up with it and I just wrote the code to do it. And it'll show you where you click.
I use that all the time.
Awesome.
Every time now I'm going to think of the ordinals
So you're not
guy.
just the ordinals guy, you're also the Street View circle guy.
Yeah. And realistically, the Street View circle thing will probably be the thing that I did that like impacted the most people over the course of my life.
That's
right?
kind of
like,
cool.
Everybody's seen that circle.
That's kind of cool though, to have that kind of impact, like with what you do, right? Or no, or is that just, yeah, I think that's cool.
No, it's definitely cool. I mean, the reason why I left is because it's hard to be satisfied with working on like tiny features in a huge product that you kind of feel like if you didn't do it, somebody else would,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I quit, and then I don't know exactly why, but I started making audio reactive visuals. And I had a friend named Johnny, rest in peace, Johnny, awesome dude, tragically not with us anymore.
Oh, sorry.
Who was like, I run this like weekly show in Oakland. It's just like at a bar with like electronic music and like some DJs. You should come do visuals for it. And so I spent like 6 months writing this visuals engine from scratch in JavaScript. And like getting a projector and figuring out how I was going to set the projector up at the club. Yeah. And then doing this show and that actually sort of started me on the path to the degenerate site. The main thing that I realized, there are kind of two things that I came up with in that first visual set. One is that it had the visuals, they had a foreground and a background. and I made like 16 or like 8 different like scenes, and you could do any combination of any scene in the foreground and any scene in the background. And the thing that I learned from that was that like, if I had just made 8 different like things, I would have had like 8 different visuals. You know what I mean? But because I made 8 different things and you could combine them, I actually had 8 times 8 or 36 or no, 64 different visuals. And so then that was like a strategy I learned, which was like, okay, like make things that you can combine instead of making things that are standalone. And then the way that the foreground and background stuff worked is that it actually worked on like inversion. Like I think you would like XOR the pixels together, which would give like this, like the foreground would invert whatever was in the background. And then my next set of visuals, I just did this like image filter thing. It was very different from Degenerate, but it relied on inversion. Like you would draw an X and everything inside the X would like invert the thing behind it, and everything outside the X would just be left unchanged. And this is like kind of technical, but inversion is useful for this because it doesn't destroy any information. Like you're not just overwriting the pixels in the previous image with like a new color, you're using them. And this lets you, if you do that multiple times, that lets you build up complexity in the visual output. And it also, the previous version, which was called Blaster, used this like kind of image filter technique, but it wasn't really fully fledged. And that was the combination thing. You could sort of combine all these image filters. And so now Degenerate, it's like using the image filter technique, but it's like fully abstracted. And the transformations that it does aren't just inversion. It's any invertible linear algebra operation. So it's like kind of weird. You take a pixel, it's a color, you interpret it as a vector in this like three space, and you rotate it, and then you reinterpret it as a pixel. And that winds up, so it's sort of like the culmination of the previous 2 visual sets that I started doing. So it's been a long progression.
Yeah. Were you ever fascinated as when you were younger, like with like I don't know if you ever saw those. They were like I think they were like kaleidoscopes. You would have this little thing that you would hit, and then it would turn different things. I know when I was younger, we used to do this thing where you had like, wasn't a projector, but I think it was like, I think they were like in school. They were like it's like a glass thing,
like those transparency projectors that you'd have that thing, and you'd have that like thing. Yeah. I don't know how they worked.
So you could do that too, where you have like let's say like glass or like some type of like clear thing, and then you could throw ink in there, and then you could create that kind of visual like in like organically, I guess, or whatever in the real world. And I think there was like, I think it was Darren Aronofsky or like somebody like did that as well too. Super's leaving.
See ya. I promised Cara I would only stay for part of the podcast because I'm hungry and it's dinner time. All right. So I'm headed out to get dinner. Thanks, Ordinals guy.
Bon appetit. See ya.
He said bon appetit. Thanks. Where are you gonna go?
Probably Rapolo's Pizza.
Oh, nice. Hey, can you give me a slice?
Sure. Well,
cool.
Actually, I'm getting a what's it called? The one we fold it on itself, calzone. So I will try to save you. All right,
cool. Sorry.
No worries.
We moved into this
secure the calzone.
We moved into this new lab, and we're right down the street from this pizza place, and he's been talking about this calzone. It's supposed to be good. We'll see. No, so like, yeah, so I know there's ways to do it like organic or like,
I mean,
normally,
I
but
remember
like
what you're talking about.
How hard is it
that they did visuals in the 60s is they would get like one of these projectors, and they'd get ink of a bunch of different colors between 2 like flexible plastic, like pieces of flexible plastic. And then by just kind of wiggling it or like tapping it, you'd get this sort of like trippy display as the ink kind of mixed and like vibrated.
Cool. It's kind of cool. And then if you go to like, what happened? Oh, here you go. If you go to the, I think it's called look at what the light did now. Gosh, I forget the musician's name. But Feist, I think it's Feist. She did this thing where she went on tour and then she like did all of that like live, and she had like her own people doing it, and it was all. It's a really cool documentary of how to like make all those things naturally. I know here in Austin, the Spider House, we have the Spider House here, and they kind of do what you were talking about, where they have like the visualization for like different acts and stuff. But I always wondered, like, even like in the older days, like you would see it on Winamp, right? Like where they would have this visualization tool thing. Like how did they do that back then? Like, is it the same thing or is it completely different or?
It's the same kind of thing. I mean, like you just get the audio signal, and then you like just interpret that audio signal visually, you know? So like imagine an equalizer where you sort of have the different frequency levels just going up and down, right? That's a very simple kind of audio visualizer. And then if you're in a computer and you can just draw arbitrary pixels, then you can figure out like how to display that in a more interesting way. And just like a bunch of people have experimented with different ways of programming those visuals.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I remember when he came back, he was everybody was really excited about the ordinals thing. I don't know if it was the puzzle aspect to it or if it was the just the how you presented it. I know I had talked to, maybe it was Chris from Bitcoin Magazine was there as also. He was like, I think it was Chris maybe that was also excited about it too.
Yeah. Well, so there's also the like after I sort of started doing it, I realized that there's sort of like a collectible aspect to it.
Yeah.
So like you could trace the history of an ordinal and see which transactions it's been in. And so, for example, like maybe you could find an ordinal, a sat that had been in the famous like pizza transaction, the first like purchase made with Bitcoin. Yeah. And then I came up with a rarity system. And that too started out super complicated, and I made it like simpler and simpler. So like the rarity system has a few tiers. It's like common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and mythic. And so common sats, if it's not the first sat in the block, it's common. Like most sats are common. If it's the first sat in the block and it doesn't have any other special characteristics, it's uncommon. And then if it's, the difficulty adjustment, right?
Yeah.
So every 216 blocks, I think, there's a difficulty adjustment, or every 2 weeks,
every 2 weeks,
where the network adjusts to keep the difficulty such that blocks come every 10 minutes. So if the first sat of that block is rare, okay, and then the first sat of every halving, which happens every 4 years, right?
Oh man, that's ultra rare, right?
Ultra rare, yeah, it's epic, which is good because sometimes it's referred to as like a halving epic or an epoch or a reward epoch. So the first sat of the epoch is epic.
It kind of reminds me of CryptoKitties. Do you remember CryptoKitties?
I remember them. I didn't ever get into the. I didn't know like they probably had a rarity system.
Yeah, they had a rarity system to it, but it was like, and then they just got overwhelmed. They started doing too much. But in the beginning, it was like literally you get this when this thing is born, and then you spawn them together or whatever. Then it just got ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that was kind of cool where they had that rarity system to it, and it was a level one.
The nice thing is that, and then they just kept like spamming them, right?
Yeah.
They just flooded the market with CryptoKitties. I can't create more ordinals. I don't even have any rare ordinals as far as I know. So it's like, it doesn't have the same problems with somebody manipulating the supply. But then wait, this is like really cool. So the difficulty adjustment happens every 2 weeks, and the halving happens every 4 years. And usually the halving and the difficulty adjustment do not happen on the same block. They're just like off kilter. So they don't happen at the same, on the same block. But every 6 halvings or every 24 years, the halving and the difficulty adjustment happen on the same block.
What?
Yeah. And I think I'm the first person to notice this because nobody has done like deranged like numerology with like the Bitcoin math like I have.
Oh, wow.
And that is a legendary ordinal.
Oh, wow.
And there has not even been one legendary ordinal mined. The first one will be mined sometime in 2032.
So is there a place where I can go enter my public key and then get it like basically like a Pokédex that tells me all the little things that I have?
Sort of. So so I've been working on a block explorer. It's not like we're still working on it, so it's only for Signet at the moment. But if you go to signet.ordinals.com, you can see all the recent blocks, and then you can like click on a block and you can see all the transactions. And then you can click on a transaction and see all the outputs. So
and
you
then
said click on an output.
Signet what?
Signet.ordinals.com.
Ordinals.com. Okay, let's see. Whoa. Okay.
So click on the first block.
Okay. I see 0 through 18.
Okay, and then those are the transactions in the block, I think. So click on 0. That'll be the Coinbase transaction.
Yeah. So I see 27911, and then it goes on. And, then it ends with a. Yeah, go ahead.
It ends with like a 0, 1, colon 1, or colon 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first output. So click on the first output, colon 0.
Okay, now it's breaking off even more. And now it has like 5095600. Then it's like series of numbers, and then a comma. Then
yeah, that's right. So those are the ordinal ranges within the output. There are multiple ordinal ranges within this output. So click on the first range.
Okay, it says first.
Yeah, that page needs work, but that's the first a link to the first ordinal on the page. So click on first.
Wow. Yeah. So it has the number, the decimal, the degree, the name, the height. Yeah. So you know what I'm thinking now? Like just my mind's like going. It does look like you're saying like almost like a universe, right? Or like you could literally, I could see I don't know who made the wallet. Have you seen that? It was on Twitter the other day where somebody had, or maybe I imagine it, but somebody had made this thing where you like when you set up your private keys or something, it was like a design thing where you set it up and it's like bubbles, and it's a wallet. And then this is how you choose your.
Oh yeah. The output picker. It's like almost picking from a pile of coins to make a transaction, right?
Yeah. So like I could see that like basically this, right? Where it's like almost like you zoom in more and then it almost like Google Earth, dude. Like
it is kind of like that. Like this is like, it lets you click into an output, right? When normally the output is kind of like the end. It adds more detail within an output.
Man, have you talked to Wiz about this?
I don't think so. I've heard of Wiz. He's a Twitter Bitcoiner.
He's with Mempool. He contributes to Mempool. I just talked to him in Nashville a few weeks ago. There's no doubt in my mind he would look at this and be like, hey, there's something to it. It would be cool to get like his perspective on it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll definitely bring it up to him. I
love mempool.space. I would love.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend they add it now because it's all really rough and beta. But eventually, if they had like an ordinals mode where you can go and
click on it and then go even more, and it's almost like a Google. I don't know. It's like a universe, right? Especially if it looked cool. Like it would be.
Well, so and then there's also like you saw the name attribute.
Here, let me see. Name. Yeah. So what's that?
So each ordinal. So I just take the number and then I map it to a series of the digits A through Z. So like try like in the URL bar, it has like the ordinal / and then the number. Try replacing the number with like a word.
Any word?
A through Z, 10 characters or less.
Okay, let me just type in I don't know, Satoshi. See what that does. Oh wow, it came up with Satoshi.
Yeah,
that's so
every
cool.
Ordinal maps to a name. So if you wanted to use it as like a weird username system for Bitcoiners, you could get like your username ordinal, and then assign it to a key, and then people could see which UTXO that was in, and thus get your public key from the address of the UTXO, and then they could like send you encrypted messages, or you could sign challenges to prove that you owned it.
Yeah, I just typed in Thriller X and then it came up.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That's so cool.
What's the what's the block height on Thriller X?
The block height. Okay, I see the number, the decimal, the degree. Oh, the height. Okay, there it goes. 1882580.
So the problem is that's probably like, what's the current block height? Yeah, so the current block height is 750,000.
Oh wow!
So the Thriller X
ordinal
will probably not be mined for like decades to come.
Oh, and that's in the future. Oh, is that in the future? What'd you say the height was right now?
750,000.
Oh, okay. So this is going to come in the future.
What? How big is it? Like, is it in the millions or the height?
The height. It just says. Okay, let me do my math here. I'm terrible at math. Yeah, 1,882,500.
1,882. Okay, yeah. So it's probably coming in. It's going to be a while. So the names things has a weird thing behind it. So originally, I made it so that like the 0th ordinal was A, and then the first ordinal was B, and then they went up and got longer as the ordinals got bigger. However, with that scheme, all of the good short names were mined in the Genesis block, because the Genesis block mined 5 billion sats, and that's like a ton of these names, like all the way up to like 9 characters are all in
really? Oh, wow.
Genesis block. Yeah. And then the other thing is that the Genesis block, the Coinbase reward of the Genesis block cannot be spent due to a bug in Bitcoin's code. So it would mean that all of those really good names are locked inside of the Genesis block. And so I didn't want that. So I reversed it so that the names go from very long strings of characters to shorter and shorter and shorter. Like if you go to ordinal 0, if you just, instead of a name in the URL bar, you put 0, you'll see like where they start, and it's like NV, like
something. Wow, yeah. I see it. NVTDIJUWXLP. Rarity is
but
mythic.
You can find, what's that?
The rarity says mythic.
Yeah. That's
cool.
That's the ultimate. The first sat of the Genesis block is mythic, and no other sat has that rarity tier.
Yeah. That's kind of cool, man. That's really cool. What are the next steps to doing this? Like, cause it would be cool. Like if I wanted to go buy this ordinal or like get a hold of it somehow.
Yes. So everything is being developed in the open. Like I wrote a BIP, but it doesn't have a BIP number, but if you go to github.com/Casey/ORD, that's the repo that has everything in it. So the BIP has a full spec. And then we're working on 2 things right now. We're working on the block explorer, which is sort of like, or the ordinals explorer, which is sort of where that's the page that you're clicking through. And I think that's really important because it makes things real for people. Like I can sort of describe things, but if you can't like click on blocks and transactions, you maybe don't like believe that it works or don't understand how it works or don't kind of get how it works. But the block explorer is like important for making it concrete. And then the ordinals, you watched the presentation at BTC++. Did you kind of catch the part of the presentation about how they move from UTXO to UTXO?
I didn't get that far now.
Okay, so it's really simple. So each Bitcoin transaction has a list of inputs, and each input is a UTXO that's being spent, and a list of outputs, and each output is the UTXO that's going to be created. And each UTXO, each input and output has a value in Satoshis. So imagine that the outputs are like these lists, all the outputs together are these like slots for ordinals. Each Satoshi has a little slot. And you just go through all of the ordinals and the inputs from first to last, and you assign each one to the next slot in the outputs. So let's say you had an input that had that was worth 3 sats, and it had ordinals X, Y, and Z. And you had one output worth 1 sat and one output worth 2 sats. The first output would get ordinal X, and the second output would get ordinal Y and Z. So you literally just go through the ordinals of the inputs and assign them to each output in order according to how many.
Yeah, dude, it sounds like you had, like, how did I have so many questions? Like, how does your mind think first? And then it's just like, how do you like do you see the numbers in your head, Casey? Like when you're doing this, or like no, seriously, like how does that work in your head? I don't.
Yeah. So the yeah, I mean, I guess one thing, yeah, like I guess if you do a lot of programming, you are sort of used to visualizing. You get better at visualizing abstract things. You know, like when I think about a transaction, like a Bitcoin transaction, I actually have a way that I kind of visualize it as this like card, and the inputs are written on the left side of the card and the outputs are written on the right side of the card. And so I can kind of visualize it in terms of those like visual metaphors, in your head. And I think a lot of programmers do this. And actually, so
do you have multiple screens too, where you like go side, like you have multiple screens in your head, like where you can go like across and stuff, like almost like Minority Report, where you're like.
So I have a podcast, and we did a couple episodes called Craft Store Bitcoin, where I try to explain how the Bitcoin network works and how the Lightning Network works in terms of literally stuff I got from a crafting store. And so in the episode, I actually write things. I actually made it. It's very similar to how I think about it. We got like round pieces of cardboard, and those are outputs. I kind of think of UTXOs as being like coins. And so they're like round to me. And then transactions, I got these pieces of these cards and like wrote down the inputs and the outputs on these like cards. And we kind of walked through like creating a transaction, validating a transaction, adding and removing things from the UTXO set with these like visual metaphors, which are very much similar to the way that I think about them. And probably most people who do a lot of development have their own like visual metaphors that they use to understand things.
Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah, that you can just name off all these different numbers. I think my biggest problem that I have is like I'm more of a visual guy. Like I have a lot of images in my head, and it's hard for me. Mm-hmm. Like my biggest problem is hard. It's hard. I see like different things, like as far as like art and like music. I can see music and what it looks like in my head and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But like when it comes to like communicating that from my head to like spoken language, I suck. That's why I can explain how I'm feeling by showing you like I can draw something and show you that's how I feel, as opposed to like explaining how I feel, if that makes any sense.
Maybe you should learn how to program. It might give you another because programming is all about translating some ideas in your head to something else, to some form, be it like a visual form or whatever. It's a lot of fun.
I do a little web design stuff, but not too much. Kind of thinker. Yeah, do a little bit of web design stuff, but not too much.
I don't think about numbers at all. Like I don't really think about I'm not like really a numbers guy. When I think about an ordinal, I don't think about it as a string of digits. I think about it as like a little colored stone that is a different color from all the other stones or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, man, that's kind of cool. Do you think other Bitcoiners, like all the Bitcoiners that you've talked to, have they been developers that you've mostly told this? Like has anybody besides me that's like a normal Bitcoiner that's not a developer like been interested in it too as well? Are there more people like that? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So like I live in the Bay Area. I live in Emeryville, which is like a tiny city between Oakland and Berkeley in the Bay Area. And I go to a ton of meetups. The Bay Area Bitcoin meetups are like super strong.
Nice.
And yeah, I basically will talk to ordinals about anybody who will listen to me. So I've talked to a ton of normal Bitcoiners. And I actually think that's one of the strengths that ordinals has, is that it's actually very simple. And so you can sort of understand how the details work, even if you're not a programmer. So like, for example, Taro, the Taproot asset representation overlay that Lightning Labs is working on. Yeah. Awesome project. I hope they do incredible things. Like Ordinals is not a competitor to it at all.
Wait, would it be though?
But so they're kind of optimized for different things. Like Ordinals, I've always optimized it for making art and collectibles and like this collectible sats thing. You would have a hard time if you wanted to do stable coins for example. One problem is that the minimum value of a thing kind of has to be more than the value of one sat, because each ordinal is one sat. So if you send somebody an ordinal, you're sending them the ordinal and whatever it represents, but you're also sending them one sat worth of value. So if you want to do a stable coin and you want to have like a high divisibility stable coin that has a stable value, that might not really work because a single ordinal might be too big, right? Let's say you want to have a stable coin and you want to be able to transfer like 1,000th of a dollar. Maybe a sat is going to be more than 1,000th of a dollar eventually. And so it's not going to like work. And then also, like, if you want to send somebody, like, let's say you had like ordinals, USDO, ordinal USD or whatever. You would like for
It's
each
a great name.
For each ordinal USD, I think it should be OUSD. For each OUSD, you would have to have like one sat. So you'd be like these blocks of sats that you'd be like, it just gets kind of cumbersome. Whereas with Taro, which is Lightning Labs' thing, you can have any number of assets within a single UTXO, and it doesn't matter what the size of the UTXO is. So, you could have like 1 billion Taro USD in like one output that was only like 1,000 sats.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. But the thing about Taro is that it's very complicated. And not to like, this is not me throwing shade at it. I think the complexity, it buys you a lot of features, but it's very hard for a non-developer to understand, whereas a non-developer can totally understand ordinals, especially if you have the block explorer and you can just click into transactions and see like, oh, okay, I guess these are the ordinals in there, and like click on the ordinals and the ranges.
Yeah, for sure. It actually makes, it just makes it more complete, I guess. It feels real, more real, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, seeing things and interacting with them makes it real, like a lot of the time, if I read some spec or a new concept, I don't really understand how it works. I actually need to play with it a little bit and like write some code or something that uses it. And then eventually I'm like, okay, then it's like real. Or if somebody, for example, like there's this great website called Learn Me a Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin educational website about like how transactions work and how private keys work. And they have all these like visual like animations and stuff of transactions and private keys. And seeing that kind of thing makes those things so much more real. You're like, something can be abstract and then you see an image and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like, no problem.
Yeah. I think for me that the whole Taro thing, and then we'll kind of zip that up, but like the whole Taro thing for me is like kind of like what you just said. Like you could have like, I don't know, different types of tokens and it's just like 1,000 sats. And it'd be fun if it was like just for fun. But if they're trying to attach like a monetary amount to it, it's going to be kind of weird.
I think the thing about Taro is that like I look forward to hyper Bitcoinization. I expect that hyper Bitcoinization is coming. It's going to be great. Until then, a lot of people are in sort of financial regimes where they just want to do business, and right now for those people, Bitcoin doesn't seem to be the best choice. They want stable stores of value. And that's why things like USDT are so popular. And they use USDT Tether on like the shittiest shit coins you can imagine. Like they're on like Tron, like Tether on Tron is moving like billions of dollars of value a day. So I don't see Taro as an upgrade over Bitcoin. Taro is an upgrade over USDT on Tron, essentially. And for a lot of reasons, I think is probably bringing that to Bitcoin is probably good for Bitcoin.
Yeah. What do you think about, did you see the news this week about the Galoy and then the Fedi stuff that happened a couple of weeks ago? Like, what do you think about all that stuff? Since we're talking about stable coins and stuff.
I actually wrote a blog post a long time ago about first Fedi, about the Lightning, Chaumian mints on Lightning. I'm very, very positive about it. It's basically a way that anybody can operate a Bitcoin bank that is very private. The bank doesn't know anything about what the customers are doing and it's still trusted, but it's less than trusting a single person. You basically trust a multi-sig, and like, for example, 3 out of 5 people have to betray you in order to take your money. And those are called like federated or federated Chaumian mints. And again, it's not an upgrade over like self-sovereign Bitcoin. It's an upgrade over, for example, a wallet of Satoshi, right? This very easy to use,
great wallet,
custodial lightning, great wallet.
I love the wallet.
And like,
so
I wish it wasn't the case, but whenever I'm telling somebody about Bitcoin for the first time, I have them download wallet of
Me
Satoshi
too.
and I send them. Yeah. Cause you can't have that. Like the alternative to wallet of Satoshi, people think is like being a self-sovereign Bitcoiner, but actually the alternative to wallet of Satoshi is people never using Bitcoin in the first place and using PayPal. And so I view,
or Robinhood or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I view Fedimint as being a huge upgrade over wallet of Satoshi. All of a sudden, anybody can run their own bank. It's more private. It's less trusted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like competing with being like managing your own keys. If you're already managing your own keys, then like fabulous, like keep doing that. It's for people who maybe can't manage their own keys, doing small value transactions, want to get on the Lightning Network but can't have their own channels. It's for people like that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that turns into. And then the Galoy thing. What do you think about the Galoy stable sats? What a great name.
I think that's also absolutely sick. I think it's awesome. And I actually have also, I've been talking about that in other contexts for a while. Like I pinged somebody famous, not at Galoy, and I was like, hey, like, could you do this? Like, maybe you should do this. And so it's actually finally happening. Yeah, I think that's great. It's like somebody wants to have a Bitcoin wallet, and they also want to have a USD balance, or they want to have some balance that's stable. And so what the wallet provider does is they go, let's say you want to have $100 balance. So you take $100 from your Bitcoin wallet, however many sats that is, and put that into your stable wallet. And then Galoy, in this case, they don't buy USD and they don't sell your Bitcoin. They go short Bitcoin. So if the value of that $100 worth of Bitcoin goes down, they get the difference, right? If it goes down to $50, then that short contract pays them out $50. And so they can keep, from the customer's perspective, the customer always has this $100 of stable purchasing power, but it's actually backed by Bitcoin plus a short, and the value of that Bitcoin and the short are going up and down, but they should add up to the purchasing power. So the customer always has that stable purchasing power. I think it's
that's
phenomenal.
That's the best explanation I've heard of it so far. Yeah. So do they cash out that purchasing power immediately, or do they, like, what happens with that?
Well, the other cool thing, yeah. So the purchasing power, like the amount that they have, the $100, that's always backed by Bitcoin, right? When it goes down to 50, with Bitcoin the value gets cut in half. They get all this Bitcoin from the short, so that means that they can use the value, the purchasing power, but they can spend it as Bitcoin. They're always able to spend $100 of Bitcoin or send $100 of Bitcoin on the Lightning Network because it's always backed by Bitcoin, which is really cool because it sort of uses the dollar. You know, the 3 traditional forms of money there, like rolls of money is medium of exchange, store of value, and unit of account. And so this Bitcoin already is a good store of value. But with stable sats and projects like it can be an even better medium of exchange because it still uses the dollar as the unit of account. In a lot of ways, the unit of account roll of money, which is like what we price things in, is probably the last thing that Bitcoin is going to take over. It takes a lot for people to stop thinking in dollars and start thinking in Bitcoin. So this kind of creates a wallet where you can use Bitcoin as the medium of exchange without using it as the unit of account. And obviously, this is not an upgrade over self-sovereign Bitcoin because this is like in an exchange, you've got like technical risk from the short. You have to trust the people who are selling the short. You've got additional risk over holding your own Bitcoin. But for somebody who's on an exchange or has a custodial wallet, this is a great way that they can preserve their purchasing power and also still stay on the Bitcoin network. They can pay in Bitcoin, they can receive in Bitcoin. And to their point of view, they're just sending and receiving like purchasing power in dollars, as opposed to something like Tether, where if you have a Tether balance, you can't just send that as Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, you don't know
I think it's really cool.
Yeah, you don't know where it's at, or like it's supposedly, right? It's like that's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you don't. Well, it's not about the Tether might not be backed. That's like a separate issue. Maybe the Tether isn't backed. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's just that like you can't send Tether on Bitcoin. Like even if it's worth $100, you can't send that to somebody who gives you a Bitcoin address. But with stable sats, you can. Somebody gives you an invoice for $50. You pay it. From your point of view, your account goes down $50, and from their point of view, they just receive $50 at that current conversion rate.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll? Are they gonna introduce it into the Bitcoin Beach wallet? Is that where it's gonna go first, or how is that gonna work? Do we know?
Isn't Bitcoin Beach like separate, or are they doing something with Galoy?
I thought it was. I need to talk to Nick. We have Nick in town who works for Galoy. I want to talk to him about it, but he's out of town. Yeah, I want to know more how like that's gonna work. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think, and this is the power of Bitcoin. Is all these different people are doing different things, and they all support each other because they're all making the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin currency stronger. Like somebody comes up with something and then somebody else comes up with something, and not only is each thing cool on its own, but they work together, you know?
Yeah, it's a co-opetition.
Like one thing about like one nice thing about ordinals is because ordinals are you transfer them just with normal Bitcoin transactions, you can secure them with a hardware wallet. You can do multi-sig, you can do time locks, you can do all the other constructs, Bitcoin network transaction constructs, because they're not like a totally separate thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of cool. So much fun stuff going on right now in the space. Doesn't
it feel like the amount of fun has increased like over the last like 6 months or a year?
Yeah, it has. Like the price has gone down, but I'm like, it's a lot better than where it was 6 months ago, I think, just as far as like the fun level and what people are doing now. It's like really cool. It's that summertime, man. Like last year around summertime, there were so many cool projects coming out, and this year there's even more this summer. I can't wait to see like what else is getting built out there that we don't know about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And Lightning is like I've actually been using Lightning a surprising amount, like to pay back friends. Like I got my hairstylist to like download a Lightning wallet, and I pay her in with every time. And then plug for Phoenix wallet, which is have you ever used? It's just a great like full Lightning node on your phone, and you like can go in and you can see your channels on your phone. So it feels like, and then like all these cool Lightning projects like Stacker News, right, is like awesome, and then all these other things that like interoperate with Lightning, like so much cool stuff.
Yeah, I met Evan who made Zeus a few weeks ago in Nashville. That was cool. I was just like, dude, I love Zeus so much. It's amazing. And then it was kind of cool too, because that was my first time meeting him, and got to know him a little bit. And I was like, dude, your personality, your spirit is in this app. Like I can feel it. Like it's kind of cool now. He's like, what do you use it for, a car? And I was like, I use it for all the sats that come in. It's just like streaming all day from like podcasting 2.0 and stuff. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. There's so many cool developers.
How much money do you make on, well, I mean, I don't want to dox your finances, but do you make a reasonable amount on podcasting 2.0?
It's enough to where like let's just say it like this. It's enough to where like if somebody's not having a podcast right now and it's podcasting and and they're not, or somebody has a podcast and it's not set up with podcasting 2.0, they're leaving a lot of sats on the table. And then and also I would say like it's enough to where I don't know if I should be buying Bitcoin at this point anymore, if that makes any sense.
So it's like you're DCAing via podcasting 2.0.
Yeah. And it's because of like RHR and like TFTC, like has nothing to do with like Thriller Bit. Like we get some, but like it's from like the cut that I get from those guys. So it's
nice.
it's nice. It's like, and it's just going to increase, Casey. Like it's just going to go even further.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's where it's like, I can see a point, honestly, I could honestly see a point where you literally have people that their whole job is to like, produce podcasts, and they're taking like 25 or 50 or whatever the cut is. And they just give off a portion to the people. And then like, that's how they fully function in their business.
Right.
And I can see that happening in the next 5 years.
To pay people who work for you. Right. It's like, okay. Like I'm a host, you're a host, and we got a producer, and we're all going to go like 33% on this, and just whatever comes in, by podcasting 2.0, we can do the split.
Yeah, So if you have what's the name of your podcast again?
It's called the Hell Money Podcast.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. So Hell Money is, if you ever seen in like usually like a Chinese home or a Chinese business, they'll have little shrines, including like some candles and some incense and some like, and then, so those are all like gifts to the dead, to their like ancestors. And so one thing that they also sometimes do is they'll have paper that's like printed to look like money, like fake paper money, and they'll burn it as a gift to their ancestors. Wow. And that's called Hell Money. So that's the name of the podcast.
Wow,
the Hell Money Podcast.
That's so cool. What do you guys talk about on there? Do y'all talk about like lightning stuff and everything like that?
I mean, it's really random. I do it with my friend Erin, who I actually met at a Bay Area Bitcoin meetup. She's super smart. She's not a dev, but she's a Berkeley PhD. And we talk about Bitcoin. We talk about like the culture of Bitcoin. And also, since I'm a dev, like technology stuff, and I like force Erin to listen to me while I like explain how like Bitcoin works. And she's like, oh, fine. And like the Lightning Network and stuff like that.
I can't wait to listen to it. I want to go and listen to it because I always like developer podcasts. They're just more knowledgeable about things.
well, maybe look at my podcast before you give me that compliment.
Okay, I'll check it out. What? So do you have that set up with podcasting 2.0?
Yeah, I think it's on like YouTube. It's on, if you go to hellpodcast.money. Yeah, hellpodcast.money. That's our
hellpodcast
domain. Let me check it out on Fountain. I think last time I checked, we had like 900 sats. Damn. Wow. We have 2,700 sats now. 2,773 sats on Fountain.
Wow, dude, that's an awesome cover. We'll link it in the show notes and everything, and I will. Yeah, look at this. I'm gonna follow it on Twitter. That's so awesome.
Oh damn! Somebody boosted.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
This is amazing. It's so cool. What is shell? You found
what's that?
Images that could be album covers. And then it's like a shell. It's like a shell.
Oh yeah,
station. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Erin's in charge of the Twitter account.
Oh, is she? Yeah, that should totally be your cover art. So clean.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you for coming on Thriller, man. Like this is
dude,
it's awesome.
My pleasure. I listened to the episode with Super Testnet, and I was like, they're talking about ordinals, and it was a dope episode. So I was like, gotta talk to Carr.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? If you ever come to Austin, man, you gotta swing by Pleb Lab and like maybe do an ordinals workshop.
For BitBlock Boom.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. You want to do a ordinals workshop during BitBlock Boom?
Let's do it. Lab? Yeah, because we're trying to because we just moved into this new space. We're trying to get all the furniture here and everything. And but what we want to do is like start doing workshops in here, like just like an hour workshop and invite everybody, whoever wants to come in. And like it would be cool, like if you did an ordinals workshop, you get Super to do like a Noster workshop, get our other friends to do some core lightning stuff. Like it'll be I think this is what it's here for,
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So the main obstacle to using ordinals right now is that in order to move them around, you've got to do these like weird transactions. Like, because if you just do a normal Bitcoin transaction with a Bitcoin wallet, for example, you might pay your rare ordinal as fees, and then it would go to the miner.
Oh.
So we're working on the wallet furiously. But once the wallet is out, then it will be possible to like have like an ordinal wallet and then like move funds into it and like just move the ordinals around and like send the ordinals to other people.
Yeah, that's so dope. I can't wait. When do you think?
So hopefully that will be done by maybe it'll be done by BitBlock Boom. Who knows?
What? That'd be amazing. Yeah, I can't wait till you meet the rest of the people here. Some big brains here, so you'll fit right in. I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. Well, I'll see you next time, Casey. Thank you so much for coming on. And do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. Ordinals.com. Hellpodcast.money,
Hellpodcast.money. Everybody check it out. I'll link it here in the show notes.
And then I guess if you want to follow me, I'm on like everything is Rodarmor, RODARMOR on all the platforms.
Boss. Can't wait.
And I guess in some way dancing to just skin, I got down on my knees. I told you I loved you in front of Black Midi. I told my friend Jack that it could have been